being the appointed hour, I call to order the New Bern Historic Preservation Commission. Can we have a roll call, sir?
Certainly. George Craig.
Here.
James O. Woods. He's absent. Tripp Urich.
Here.
Ruth Cox.
Present.
Christian Evans.
Here.
Ellen Sheridan.
Here.
James Bisbee.
Here.
Joseph Klotz.
Here.
Peggy Broadway.
Here. I call for a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes.
So move.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None. So we will dispense with that. The Historic Preservation Commission is a public commission appointed by the City of New Bern's Board of Aldermen. It is responsible for preserving and safeguarding New Bern's locally designated historic districts, downtown and Riverside, based on the U.S. Department of Interior standards, state standards, city ordinances, and New Bern's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks of the HPC include approving applications for a certificate of appropriateness and preventing demolition of historic structures due to neglect. The HPC holds a quasi-judicial hearing on an application for a certificate of appropriateness. The Commission hears sworn testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who receive notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant evidence and are directly affected by the application. The Commission cannot consider comments based on personal likes or dislikes, hearsay, or personal opinion that cannot be directly related to specific historic guidelines. Likewise, commissioners shall refrain from stating personal opinions, personal likes or dislikes, or hearsay during a hearing. The Commission's decisions on an application is based solely on testimony and evidence presented at a hearing that directly relates to the historic guidelines. Sir, would you like to swear in any presenters? So if you're going to speak tonight, you need to come over to the lectern there and be sworn in.
Okay. So, you can just stand right there, raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
And please sign here.
Here's a summary of how we will proceed. The HPC administrator provides an overview of the application. The applicant or their representative presents the application. Proponents and opponents who received notice of the hearing can present evidence. Rebuttal is allowed by the applicant and by proponents and opponents who received notice. Others who can justify that they have relevant information and will be directly affected can present evidence. The HPC administrator presents the staff's findings and their recommendation. The applicant or their representative has an opportunity to make final comments on their application if they so desire. Commissioners discuss the evidence and may ask for clarification from the applicant or their representative. The chairman calls for a motion to approve or deny the application with stated findings of facts. The motion is discussed by the commission. The chairman calls for a vote on the motion by the commission. A COA can be approved with conditions, or denied. So let us go to the first application of this evening.
Okay, so we have, first this evening is 215 Craven Street. Sorry, let me, this a little small. I don't think, okay, before we proceed with this, I realized that Ms. Aquabach was in the audience and I didn't know why. And I believe there may have been miscommunication. She presented at the design review, remember, for the Cypress Hall revision regarding the rooftop dining. And I did not understand, or in my notes did not have that she was to come to this meeting today. So, or the project rather. So I'm not sure if I must have had in the notes that it would be viewed as a minor or not. She's here prepared for that. Now, two issues are with regard to the public notice. We can't actually hear it tonight because the public is not aware that it would even have come up, let alone me for that matter. And I don't have the information loaded into the presentation. So I think we'll have to, if it becomes a critical timing issue, we may have to schedule a special meeting in order to do so. Or if it's fine with them, if they're not in such a big hurry, we'll add it to the agenda for next month. So that would, however, be a 4-week delay. So we can either schedule a special meeting, or have it next month.
I don't have an
I
objection.
apologize.
Okay, I'll let you discuss that with them and see what we need to do.
Okay. Yeah, okay. At least they make us sit through the whole meeting. All right. So, sorry. That's the first time I've done it. All right. So, this is the application for 215 Craven Street. You can see they fully provided all the information and also the signature page at the end. Then, beginning with the rest of their application, they began with a photograph of the facade of the property. This is, of course, Mitchell's Hardware. And they chose this photograph in order to illustrate where the one permanent piece will be installed on the facade. And it represents this black line across the top of the lower windows and across the doorway openings. On both sides, two separate pieces. There's a gap at the pier here. And it does not extend, well, I don't think it extends. It would just be a draft drawing thing as to why it is shown extending on the left. Let's see. So then in the presentation, we've provided some additional photographs to help us understand what will be happening. So we're talking about the top piece will be along this yellow member, the beam actually, on both sides of the windows. And that's the other side.
Mhm.
And then this is their, the corner, and then the bottom at the corner, one of the corners, one of the four corners, and the inside bottom. So, this is then their description of the work and the materials. They also call out the precedent at Carolina Creations on Pollock Street, which is this photograph right here. You can see they have this bronze-colored track across the top, and it is used to protect their window system. Goes all the way across. I'm going to try and get to the left side here as well, to this side over here. We did review some of the reasons for this, and it has to do with protecting the historic materials of the actual wooden storefront. That's still the original wooden storefront, and this is some of the damage that's been happening as they've been needing to nail or screw plywood and other materials potentially to the facade prior to a storm, and then remove them afterwards. So the proposal is to use a system with that, here it's shown white, but in the other one it was bronze. They're proposing yellow to match their facade. And then also the metal panels, they brought one along as a sample. And then a track at the bottom, some kind of track at the bottom. Here again is that top track, the bottom track, and how it's installed. There's a keyhole slot for it. This is the side view of that top track, so you have an idea of the profile of this. Then the metal pieces again themselves, and then at the bottom there will be permanent bolts installed so that the bottom track can be easily attached and quickly attached without constantly attaching and reattaching.
That was an old photo, that right there,
The
yeah.
bottom track will disappear, and this is more.
That's an old photo, yeah, the newer ones were all labeled, so those can be,
So this is an older
skipped.
photo that we saw the last time, but isn't, I guess, quite as helpful this time. So if we need to refer to them, we will, but for the moment, we'll skip past them. The zoning and inspections review, it meets zoning and will not require a building permit. And then we have our findings and recommendations when you're ready.
Okay. Do any of the members have any questions that they'd ask about this, or conflict of interest with this project?
Yes, when you put the track on the bottom, what about when you cross over the doorway?
Peggy, hold on 1 minute.
I'm sorry.
I'm on conflicts of interest.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, that's all right. We're gonna get to your question, though. Keep
Okay.
your question. I'm on conflicts of interest. I don't hear any, okay? Ma'am, is there anything else you want to present at this time?
just for ease of everyone understanding, if you'd like, I can just present the actual pieces. This is an example of the top track that will be installed above the windows. It is powder-coated paint to match the facade, and it's easy to just insert those panels in here temporarily. This is the bottom track, excuse me. This is actually temporary. We fixed our issue. We thought we were going to have a permanent bottom track on our bottom molding on the flashing. We were really happy to know. We actually went to Carolina Creations to see that they had removable bolts, and it was a much more seamless look. And that way, only 2 panels crossing our facade rather than 8 individual ones going inside our doorway. And so this does go into the notches in the panel, and then there will be bolts down here that are removable so that you can cross the doorway, protect all that glass, and then nothing will be permanently on the ground except for the bolt I showed you, which was at Carolina Creations. And I can answer any other questions you have.
Okay. Are there any notified proponents of this who want to speak? There's only 3 people out in the audience. Are there any notified opponents? I don't see anybody saying anything. So there's no rebuttal going on because we don't have anybody. Is there anybody who wants to make a comment with relevant evidence and standing? I don't see anyone. Okay. Sir, do you want to give us your comments?
No.
So, I'm good, I didn't get myself on my. Okay, so the applicants are Lindsay Sims and Winnie Smith for 215 Craven Street. This is to include the installation of a storefront storm protection system in the primary AVC. So from the National Registry Inventory of 2003, the information is as follows. The historic property name is the S.B. Parker Company and built in 1912. It is a contributing structure, and it describes the structure as 2 stories, brick, 5 bays wide, multi-pane transoms and storefronts, and corbelled cornice. The Sandbeck description from 1988 includes the following quote or section. When Simmons B. Parker prepared to construct a new building to house his thriving sheet metal works, it was logical for him to construct it on Lower Craven Street, in the heart of New Bern's foundry and metalworking district. Functionally detailed 2-story structure built in 1912 to serve as a combination showroom, office, and warehouse. Continued to use this building until 1966. Its 5-bay facade is divided into 2 separate storefronts at the first floor, each surviving very much intact and having a central recessed entrance flanked by large display windows. Both storefronts have their original multi-paned transoms. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. For modifications, 3.2.2, entrances 4.4.1, wood 5.2.1, and metals 5.3.4. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application in staff's judgment are: 1, the primary structure is a contributing resource in the district. 2, the project is within the primary AVC. 3, the proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the proposed design will end the gradual compromising of the original materials due to temporary storm protection measures, plus will protect the original materials from direct damage due to wind and flying debris in future storms. 5, the zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 6, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include the installation of a storefront storm protection system in the primary AVC.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the state, city, or government body who wants to present anything? Seeing none. Ma'am, do you have any final comments?
No, we just want to protect us for years to come. So.
Okay, all right. So now we're ready for discussion. Peggy, ask your question.
Thank you, yes. Just want to understand clearly how you're going to go around the alcove. Are you going to make a turn and go into the door and back
So
out?
we no longer have to, thankfully. We can, between the brick in the middle and the outer windows, there is a consistent 4-inch molding that's strong. So this top track will be installed along, I believe it's 20-some feet. And then the panels will go along without going inside the doorways to protect all 4 windows on each side. So the panels, which I'm not sure what the width is individually, will just be installed as one big sheet for one panel and then a second one for the other opening.
Thank you.
Yes?
Does anyone have any other questions? We did see this at design review, and you brought us the information that we wanted to see how
Thank you.
it's going to be attached. If there are no questions, No comments. I call for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for 215 Craven Street for certificate of appropriateness be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinances, sections 15-411 to 15-429, and New Bern's Historic District's guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Guidelines 3.2.2, 4.4.1, 5.2.1, and 5.3.4. Statements of reason. Primary structures contributing resource to the district. Projects within the primary AVC. Proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. Proposed design will end the gradual compromising of the original materials due to temporary storm protection measures, plus protect the original materials from direct damage due to wind, flying debris, and future storms. The zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed the project and commented accordingly. The project's not incongruous with the guidelines.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any other questions at this time? Hearing or seeing none, I call for a vote on the motion. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Can I have a motion to issue the COA?
So moved.
Okay, we have a second. We have several seconds. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All of those opposed? Hearing none, we can issue the COA to you, and we appreciate you
Thank y'all very much.
taking care of the storefront that's been there for a long time.
We really appreciate it, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
y'all.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is going to be continued, number C. So we now have 227
We
Middle.
need, we need a motion for the continuance and a second and a vote. And you need to make sure the motion includes the time, place, date, time, and place.
Date, time, and place where it's going to happen. Can I have a motion to continue 311 Bern Street?
So what will the next date be, Matt?
It'll be the,
It would be March 17th.
that's St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Move that we-
So, and you have to, the reason is that the applicants could not be here this evening. You have to add that to the motion too.
Madam Chair, I move that we continue 311 Bern Street to March 17th, 2021 at the auditorium in City Hall, 5:30 p.m.
Due to the fact that they could not be here tonight?
due to the fact that the applicant cannot attend tonight.
Okay. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Did we have a second on this?
Second.
Yeah.
Christian seconds.
So does that take care of Bern Street?
Yes.
Okay, let us go to 227 Middle Street.
Madam Chair, I have a conflict of interest, wish to be excused.
Okay. So, do we have a motion
So moved.
to recuse?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Hearing none, we will recuse you for this. Okay, sir, may we have an overview of this application?
Sure. So this is the application form here for 227 Middle Street. You can see they reference the attached sheets for the information here, then have provided the signature and date on the application. And Mr. Lucian Vaughn has been authorized to represent the owner. He's here in the audience today and has sworn himself in, so, or been sworn in. So first they provided the summary, the historic summary from the Sandbeck book for the building the Marks Building, 225 to 227, built in 1927. We want to reference that, we can. However, there's nothing in there with regard to the rear of the building. This is the previous COA that was provided for the previous addition, second floor addition, not the first floor addition. And in this one, that was only half the width, remember, as the one that's being proposed. And the only condition here was that the wood siding should be utilized on the addition and an appropriate wood divider approved by staff. So this is also the floor plan from that. You can see in the upper right here, it showed the addition was only half the width that is being proposed today. And that was the elevation at the time. So you can see the existing brick wall was on the right, all the way in the back, and the new addition here on the left. The first floor was already existing at that time. So, and I do want to add, at the time there was a discussion about the fact that the first floor was constructed with the hardy board plank siding, and that the addition was proposed for that, you can see here, but in the conditions of approval, that was changed to require wood siding on the new second floor addition. So now, today, the description of the work is from the application. Remember, they said to reference the attached sheets. So this was the description of the work, and I also handed out, plus also emailed everyone these. And they also include the reference to the historic district guidelines. We have a page and a half of those. We can refer to those, which we will actually eventually later anyway. And then the list of materials. So their materials list. So this is a photograph provided by the applicant of the existing condition, the first floor addition shown here, and no additions on the second floor yet. And then just a slightly better angle to see also the other side of the short parapet wall here to the adjacent property. So this is actually a part of their large drawing. Again, showing two more photographs of the location, in case we want to review those. But also some important drawings. So this is a drawing of the new proposed, or the proposed new addition on top of the first floor addition. And you can see from the section here that the second floor addition actually overhangs the first floor slightly, but it's where the current edge of the roof is. The roof currently on the first floor overhangs the first floor wall.
That's the current roof, does that?
That's correct.
Yeah.
As this slight diagonal pair of lines represents the existing roof rafters. So the existing roof rafters extend slightly over that first floor wall. And they also have here the first floor plan, and this dashed line represents that overhang. On the second floor, this is the addition that they're proposing. And now they've flipped the floor plan around so that the street is to the bottom of the sheet here, and the back of the building is to the top, or out the back. The parking area is to the back, is to the top of the sheet. And so the existing historic brick wall is along this line here, and then they are doing the addition right up against that wall. A couple things to note. First of all is that one of the windows will be removed, and then actually the window opening will be enlarged to the right, and filled in on the left, because the actual window, in order to create a doorway, I don't know why it keeps doing that yellow square, sorry. In order to get a doorway to not end up on the stairway, the doorway has to shift slightly to the right compared to where the window is. Maybe I should enlarge that so you can see that a lot better. So, you can see the windows here on the left are shown, all the windows are shown in this blue with this symbol for a window here, representing the frame and some panes of glass. There's a similar symbol here that's in gray, and it's dashed out because it's being removed. It would normally have extended over here to the right, the same width as the other ones. And so to simply replace the window with a doorway at the exact same location as the existing window would have resulted in a door that would end up landing on the stairway, which in this case is going down.
Which already exists?
And that stairway already exists, yes.
Okay.
So therefore, the new doorway has to shift slightly to the right from the existing location of the window. So I hope that's now clear, or at least clear enough. They did indicate in their description of the work that they would be retaining the existing window somewhere, putting it somewhere for storage. Meanwhile, the addition will also be, they'll be adding, of course, the wall out along the back side of the building, on that overhang we were mentioning. But also along the existing brick wall that's on this side for the neighbor, they're adding a new wall in order to provide a new interior surface instead of leaving it as a brick wall. And the same thing will be happening along this wall as well. They will be covering all the brick and the windows with a new wall surface. And then on the left side, this was the one that we spent a lot of time discussing the last time, was they have to build on top of the existing parapet wall, which we'll show you in a second, a new wall, and then on the inside of that, they will be building, again, a new wall surface. On the back wall, they're adding 1, 2, 3, 4 windows. And those are going to be wood double-hung windows with the simulated dividers, 9/9. And then the doors here for, I guess they're just double doors that are metal, double metal doors. Trying to figure out how to say what they're for, but I'm sure Lucia
For
will
getting
tell me.
equipment or materials up to that
That's
level?
right, that's right.
Is that what that's for?
There are no stairs or anything there. I guess that's the issue. So we do have, on this sheet, there are some additional photographs, and we have larger ones as well, but this shows the parapet wall I was just referring to. This is now from the neighbor's property, looking towards the area where the addition will be made. You can see those are the 6 windows. And same, just from a slightly different angle here as well. You can also see there is already in this area some mechanical units. Those will be moved from this location up onto the upper roof. All right, so.
To the upper roof that already exists?
Yes, the existing upper roof, I believe, right? So these are now those same photographs larger if we need them. The zoning and inspections review. Zoning meets the land use ordinance, and the chief building inspector says it will require a building permit, and then we have our findings and recommendations. I do have one particular question that they'll probably be able to answer. Since we did make a point of the issue regarding the siding needing to be wood siding, they have changed that from hardy plank to wood siding this time. They also changed all the windows to wood windows. And so my question, however, is not quite sure what they mean by wood siding. Someone could also describe the siding that's on the Blackbeard's deck as wood siding. So I just wanted to make sure we aren't going to get a horizontal version of that, but rather that we get the kind of siding that is actually described in the guidelines. Let's see. And then, in case you hadn't seen the emails that came out today, the applicants also changed the design for the parapet wall. So now they're proposing that the parapet wall be constructed of concrete masonry units and then surfaced with stucco.
Uh-huh. Okay, that takes care of the problem that we were discussing.
Right.
Okay?
So, I think that's it for my additional comments.
The roof, have you talked about the roof and what the roof is?
It's going to be the, I guess, rubber, how do you describe it on there, Lucian? Membrane roofing.
Is that what is on top of the second story that's already up there?
What kind of roofing is up there on the existing second story?
That's on the existing?
It is membrane roofing up on the second story as well.
So this is gonna be the same roof, it's just gonna follow that?
Mm-hmm.
And my other question is, those windows back there, not those that are the new one, but those back windows. So you're gonna leave them there, put whatever kind of wall you're gonna put. My question is, so they're gonna be covered up, right? They're not gonna be left out to the weather?
So from the inside of the new addition, they'll be covered up.
I understand that.
On the inside of the existing building, they'll remain as they are today. You just won't be able to see through them.
Right, but they're gonna be covered up, right?
Yeah, we'll be building a wall on the, while we're inside at that point, so we're building a wall in front of them, in front of the exterior of the window. It's an interior wall in front of an exterior window. You're still able to see the window from the bakery, from the second floor looking back, you know, from the bakery looking out to that existing wall, you can still see the windows. But they'll be,
But the new roof that you're gonna build, those windows are gonna be under the new roof.
correct,
That's the question I'm trying to get. Nothing's happening to the windows.
yeah, they're gonna remain in place and they'll be in. under
Inside the building, more or less, to speak of.
Correct.
Okay,
You can't look out for 'em.
okay. All
They
right.
can't look out.
There are things you can do to make them lit, you know, with LEDs. Might be kind of,
Yeah, we actually need to apply FRP panels. It's commercial through the health department. It has to have all the right floor, wall, ceiling surfaces.
On the new
food court
addition.
side,
Right.
Oh, I see.
but on the restaurant
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, perhaps that's,
So the new addition is to be used for an expansion of their kitchen?
Right, so on the food prep side,
Right.
you have to like picture a fireman standing there like this. But on the, where people are eating side, you know, it's hearts and flowers.
Okay, so are there any conflicts of interest? We've already done that. Okay, do you have anything else, sir, you want to add? Because we don't have anybody from the state, city government or any of that out there. Anything else you want to add?
no.
Okay, do we have any opponents? Proponents? There's nobody left in the audience. There's no, notified people.
Nobody that can speak.
There's nobody out in our audience, in case you can see. There's nobody with relevant evidence and standing. So, anything else, sir, you want to add at this point? You have nothing?
No, that's
Okay, so Matt, what do you want to say about your staff's recommendation?
Sure. So, this is an application for Budbeck LLC, and the address is not only 227, but 225 to 227 Middle Street. And this is to include a second floor addition in the Tertiary AVC. The National Register inventory from 2003 information includes historic property name is the Marks Building, built in 1927. It's a contributing structure. The description is it's 2 stories, brick and stone, 2 storefronts at the first level, 8 sash windows at second level set off by coins, stone panels above continuous wood hood, peaked and perforated parapet. That's, of course, all the front of the building. Sandbeck description, the only relevant, possibly relevant piece is this 2-story brick building exhibits some of the only Art Moderne or early Art Deco detailing found in downtown New Bern, but there was no reference to the rear facade. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. Guidelines for utilities, 2.3.1, 2.3.2. Guidelines for design principles, 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3.1.5. Modifications, 3.2.2. Guidelines for additions, 3.3.1, 3.3.2, 3.3.3. Guidelines for walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.1, 4.2.4, 4.2.5, and also the illustration from page 4-3 of the guidelines, showing types of wood siding. Then guidelines for windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.1, 4.3.2, and 4.3.3. Guidelines for roofs, 4.5.1, 4.5.3, 4.5.6. Guidelines for masonry, 5.1.1. And then these are meant to address potentially issues with changing the window into a door. 5.1.2, 5.1.3, 5.1.4. 5.1.5 addresses the new design for the parapet. And so 5.1.6 has been removed from the previous edition. For wood, 5.2.1 and 5.2.2. For metals, 5.3.2, 5.3.4. And the statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the primary structure is a contributing resource in the district. 2, the project is within the tertiary AVC. 3, with reservations about the wood siding, the proposed design, components, and the rest of the materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include a second floor addition in the tertiary AVC with the condition that, 1, the wood siding be specified as a type illustrated in the guidelines.
Okay, sir, anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we thank you very much. All right, so any of the members of the commission have any questions at this time? He's made the changes that we suggested after design review, and we do thank you for that.
Actually, I have a question. Is the purpose of the room to increase the dining area?
No.
No, ma'am, it's mostly to serve.
I can't hear you.
It is not. It is on the second floor, and is a part of the bakery. So it's an addition to the bakery.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I was concerned about the possibility of leaving the windows exposed if it was going to be additional dining area, which would throw more light in there.
Yes, good point. But no, ma'am, it's.
And the doors on the back, am I correct in thinking there's a little porch outside of that, Matt?
No.
So the door's just open to nothing?
Correct.
The doors are to be able to bring in any supplies they might need up there for the bakery.
Kind of like a hayloft kind of door,
Yeah.
a barn, where you just have a door on the second floor
Yeah,
to drop the bales of hay out.
so
In
they
this
will have a
case-
stairway at the back.
No, so
No.
the doors will open directly into the room. And so once the doors are open, they can just load anything, say with a forklift, directly into the room.
Into the bakery.
Okay.
So if you have a big truck and it's beep, 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 backing up, it has a little forklift that goes like this and can get way up there, like getting a thing off the top rack at Lowe's.
Yeah,
Does that help you, Peggy?
Oh, yeah.
That help you?
okay.
Do we have any other discussion? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 225, 227 Middle Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15-411 to 15-429, and New Bern's Historic District guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Applicable guidelines: guidelines for utilities 2.3.1, 2.3.2. Guidelines for design principles, 3.1.1, 3.1.2, and 3.1.5. Modifications, 3.2.2. Guidelines for additions, 3.3.1, 3.3.2, and 3.3.3. Guidelines for walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.1, 4.2.4, and 4.2.5, and make note of the drawings of the different types of siding in the application. Guidelines for windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.1, 4.3.2, and 4.3.3. Guidelines for roofs, 4.5.1, 4.5.3, and 4.5.6. Guidelines for masonry, 5.1.1, 5.1.2, 5.1.3, 5.1.4, and 5.1.5. Wood, 5.2.1 and 5.2.2. Metals, 5.3.2 and 5.3.4. Findings of fact. 1, the primary structure is a contributing resource in the district. 2, the project is within the Tertiary AVC. 3, with reservations about the wood siding, the proposed design, components, and the rest of the materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. The project is not incongruous with the guidelines, and I will attach the condition that the wood siding be specified as a type illustrated in the guidelines.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Can I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, sir, you may have your COA. And we do thank you very much for working with us after you came to design review. We appreciate that very much. You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, I move that we bring Mr. Bisbee back.
I second.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? There are none, so I guess you can come back.
Where you going? What?
Who seconded that?
I did. But then he left. God, my one chance.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 4 on the old business is the awards work group. And we are going to have a conference, our little group here, the two of us, are going to have a conference with Scott Davis. He's asked us to come and talk to him, right?
He hasn't requested that yet, but he has asked that there be more discussions.
Okay.
So,
I'll contact him and see what he wants to discuss with us.
Yeah.
And then I'll
Okay.
report back.
you don't have anything to add? No? Okay.
Okay, I'll report on that.
Let me know when he says, okay?
General public comments, we don't have any. New business is, one of the items is appointment of representative to the resiliency plan stakeholders meeting. And we have received a request from Amanda Zullo, and do I say that right? Am I pronouncing that about right?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna say it's right then.
All right.
It'll do for
Carry
the
on.
time being. And they, are having a meeting on Monday, February the 22nd, from 9 to 11:30, and Wednesday, February the 24th, from 1 to 3 p.m. And there are 5 different breakout rooms for discussion: historic preservation, flood, vulnerability assessment, public outreach and education, engineering solutions, the environment, and the nature-based solutions. And they have asked for us to send a representative from our commission. So do I have a volunteer of anybody who wants to do that? Again, the 22nd, and I think that's probably, is that next Monday? So that would be next Monday, 9 to 11:30, so 2.5 hours. And next Wednesday, just for 2 hours in the afternoon. Do I have a volunteer?
Trip Your.
You volunteer?
Trip Your. I
Oh,
volunteer Trip.
He's volunteering?
I'm volunteering him.
Okay, you're volunteered.
Let me check my calendar. Okay.
Okay, so Trip Your's gonna go, so,
Can I have an assistant in case I've got some other appointments?
I'm moving that then.
so who would be second in line? Since you
I'm moving.
Touche.
Since you did it to him,
Now, I'm moving that day.
which day is that?
Monday and Wednesday. I'm moving house.
Oh, you're moving, so you can't do it.
No, I'm out, but
I'm gonna be
Kristen's,
out of town.
Well, Jim is.
Jim just left.
yeah, he just left.
We could put Jim. Jim is gonna be your second in command.
Unless someone else really wants to do it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Actually, Jim's very interested in that as
Yes.
well.
Okay, so
Exactly.
we'll do Jim, and Tripp is gonna be number 1. So I will contact her, and, we're gonna do breakout number 1. Do we want to do historic preservation?
Yep.
Is that what we want to do? So, I will tell her that. Okay, I will take responsibility to contact her and let her know, because I told her I would. So I will let her know, who's coming. I don't see on this where it's happening. Have I missed?
It's virtual,
Oh, it's gonna be virtual.
yes.
Okay,
God,
all right.
At least that's what I understand.
deadly.
And there might be a.
Yes, it says provide the virtual meeting call-in
Yeah,
information. Okay,
right.
it's gonna be virtual. So Tripp, when I get this
Tripp's favorite.
information from her, well, I'm gonna give her your information so she can send
That'd be
it to
fine.
you.
Thank you.
Okay? So that takes care of that item on the agenda.
Do you need that piece of paper?
Do what?
Do you need that piece of paper for your records?
This, I can give it to you.
Thank you.
I have it at home. So training opportunity, number B, did you want to speak to that, Matt?
Yes, certainly. So also as a handout at your place was this one. It has a big word camp on it. But it's a program that's provided by the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. We are not, as far as I know, currently a member yet. But that organization annually offers various kinds of these, what they call camp modules, which is community assistance and mentoring program that they have in their organization. And this year will be the theme of community resilience and disaster planning. And so the historic preservation consultant for the Resiliency Plan is in this organization, and she heard about this, and so she presented this to us at staff at basically the Resiliency Plan members, in our office, and that would essentially be Amanda Olenzalen and myself. And the two of us listened to her description, and it's primarily a 2-day, best word for it is retreat, for the Historic Preservation Commission and any other historic preservation people in town. It is tailored to New Bern, and typically, on most years, they would send the various experts in the topic of discussion to that town and to provide this 2-day retreat costing several $1,000s. This year, I believe they may even have a grant from the National Park Service, and it will be virtual. And so for the first handful or dozen or so communities that take advantage of this, it is free. So no cost to us. It's mainly a commitment that we would make. And it hasn't been scheduled. Nobody's agreed to this yet. It's just being presented to you first to see if you would even be interested in participating in this. This year, like I said, the topic is resilience and disaster planning, and you can see in the 4-page handout the various topics, at least, and then the various learning descriptions and learning objectives for each of those topics. That's kind of their proposal. And so if we're interested, we don't have to decide tonight. I just wanted to get a consensus and see if we can even start to talk to other people, say in the city, particularly the aldermen and the management here, and see if they're okay with it, and or reach out to other organizations that may want to participate as well.
So
Kind
we
of
don't, so we
flush
don't
out
know
more
the
details.
dates yet.
What's that?
We do not know the date yet.
No, not yet.
It will be before summer, be in the fall, we don't know anything?
We don't know. Would be, I think, up to us to schedule it with them.
Oh, okay. All right. Members of the commission, what do you think about this idea? Are we interested in this?
I have a question for Matt.
Sure.
Matt, is this another typical governmental plan that they spend thousands of dollars on for recommendations and amounts to nothing? I mean, I've seen that happen so many times. In your impression, once they come up with some ideas, is anything going to be done with the ideas?
So, two things. It's not the government, and it's not a plan. So this is a nonprofit group that represents historic commissions all over the country and has historic commissions as members throughout the country. And so that group of people has been putting together these training modules for many years now. And so it's this nonprofit group that is providing a training opportunity. So they're trying to help us understand what, say, for example, the pre-disaster adaptation and post-disaster rehabilitation issues, opportunities, problems, etc., would be for us.
So-
Not every town, but for us.
So once they get the information, it's passed on to the city government?
No.
Or
No.
No. So so primarily it's to help us know what to do in the future, and maybe to give us some ideas what we might want to pursue, whether it be some kind of education program or mobilizations, coordinations with other entities. It's kind of up to us. But I'm sure it plugs into also the city's own flood resiliency plan that we're doing now. So that also is, at the moment, they're evaluating all the data for the city, And that will be the plan that is put together to give us some ideas what to do for the future.
Yeah.
And so this training opportunity would essentially dovetail in with that as well.
So if you think it's the kind of thing that would be helpful, I would love to be a part of it.
Sure, I certainly think it would be helpful.
Okay.
Any other comments? I agree, I think this would be helpful, so I think you tell them, yes, we're interested.
Okay, and to at least pursue it enough to give you some more details.
Yes, yes, sir.
And perhaps to coordinate with the powers that be here at the city.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right.
So item number 7 is the administrator's report, and here are listed some majors and minors.
Quite a few less than last month.
There's quite a few less than last month, that report. And the report on the COA extension issues is the farmer's market, and that's been extended until January of next year, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's in case those might have forgot, it's the garage doors they're trying to replace.
Yes,
You don't
right.
see them very much, but it's the garage doors we agreed that they could replace, the ones that
My
more or less
recollection.
look like what they've got. Okay.
So I can also add under A that just today I issued seven more COAs. Most of them were from our design review 2 weeks ago, but
Okay.
they'll show up on the next agenda.
Okay, all right. So item C, other items and updates. So we're going to talk about the state statute 160D and what that means we need to do. And I also think we need to go over again what's happening about the trees that we discussed at the design review. And what you've done about that and who you contacted, just for us to go over that again.
Oh, yes.
Tonight.
On
Okay,
Pollock
do you want to
Street.
do the state statutes
Mhm.
first?
Sure.
Okay,
So-
explain why we have to do this.
Right. So, I'm going to say about 2 years ago, even the state legislature enacted some new legislation or a statute that they're calling 160D, which, let me back up a second. Currently, all the regulations for planning and historic preservation is included in that, are in 2 sections of the state statutes called 160A and 160B, I believe, or C. And one of them is for cities and one is for counties. And while there are some differences between them, because cities and counties are different, a lot of them are the same. And so there's some parallel repetition between them. Over the years, things have been added in one that are slightly different than in the other, etc. Plus, this also gave them the opportunity to make some updates to some of the planning and zoning things, because especially nowadays we also have conditions where cities are expanding into county areas. We have what's called, what's the one with the J? TMJ?
ET, extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Yeah, ETJ, sorry, thank you. I don't know why I blanked on that. ETJ areas, which are areas that are under planning jurisdiction of the city, but actually are still under are legally still in the county. It's kind of like a pre-annexation. And so that, among other things. So about 2 years ago, they decided to combine those 2 sections together into 160D. And they gave the municipalities and the counties about 2 years to do that. And then with COVID, they extended it another 6 or 9 months. I think finally we all have to revise all of our ordinances by the end of August, beginning middle of August, by August sometime. And these are extensive changes. There's, I don't know, 100 different places, 200 different places that have to be changed. But as far as you're concerned, there's primarily one part in it that's changed. There are some slight technicalities, but the main one is that the term guidelines will be changed to standards. So, Jamie can, if you want, please jump in at any time if I either misspeak, mislead, or say something incorrect or I'm missing something. And so we're at some point going to be asked to vote on changing the name from guidelines to standards. I think we're currently working on whether or not there are parts in the guidelines that also have to be changed, whether it's just the word guidelines throughout, changing it to standards, or if that word can stay inside the guidelines. I don't know. So, and I think Scott Davis's office is actually working on all these changes for the city. So I guess that's mainly just the update at the moment. There hasn't been a draft yet, as far as I know, that's been finished. So that's just to give you an idea of what's coming down the pike.
And who will be doing that voting, Matt?
I'm sorry, what?
Who will actually be casting the votes?
Well, you guys will essentially make the recommendation to the aldermen. The aldermen will ultimately be the ones that will change the entire ordinance.
Will the
And
word standard, on the assumption that we do in fact adopt that, be defined?
Can you speak into the microphone? I can't hear you.
Will the word standard or standards be defined? And what does that mean? Does that have any authority behind it, or is it just a word?
Yeah, so I was in one of the training sessions about 1.5 years ago, which is why I say it must have been at least 2 years ago that was passed. But as I recall, at least this particular piece was changed from guidelines to standards because we use a quasi-judicial process, and we are subject to judicial review of, appeals can end up going to the judiciary. And so the term guidelines is potentially misleading to the public because it turns out that our guidelines are really requirements. And so I guess the people who drafted this up and voted on it decided that among the 1,000 other changes, this one also needed to change from guidelines to standards so that people would understand that it's more serious than just a guideline,
Makes sense.
I suppose. That's kind of the way they explained it in the workshop. So,
Okay.
any clarification on that, maybe? No? Okay.
All right, if you'll give us an update on what we talked about last time about the trees.
Sure. So it's now been a couple of weeks. I did speak with the city arborist, and he's the one that's in charge of taking care of all the trees in the city. And he agreed that the trees along Pollock Street should be shade trees, larger canopy trees, and that's what our guidelines also suggest. That said, however, our guidelines aren't specific about Pollock Street. It just is streets that have a view out to the river, which Pollock is one of them. And also, it also talks about the edge of streets should have canopy trees. So that could be any street, but that would include Pollock as well. So I did talk to him about the stump that's currently there and what they're going to be, and requested that they plant a shade tree there. And then with regard to the small redbud that's there now, I also asked them if they would change that out for a shade tree. And I don't know if he danced around that a little bit because, you know, it's a perfectly good tree. But I did suggest that the rest of the street also is missing a lot of trees. And he agreed that several more trees, shade trees, could be planted along Pollock Street. Now, I also realized after I talked to him that, especially after kind of researching in Google Street View, that not too long ago there were power lines down the odd side of the street, and so now there are not. So they must be undergrounded there in that grass strip. So there may be some restrictions with what they can put in that particular grass strip on that side. But on the even side, it would seem to be clear that they should be able to plant larger trees in that side. So I think we at least have an understanding with them, and I asked him if they were able to add those trees to their upcoming planting schedule, and he seemed to think that was possible. So,
Okay.
I suppose I can follow up to make sure that that has happened, but it's only been about 2 weeks, and that's probably the kind of thing that they do on an annual basis.
Yeah.
But this is now the budgeting time, and so maybe that's when they're putting this stuff together.
Who is our city arborist?
Michael Horton.
Thank you.
So it might be a good time for you to follow up with them since it
Yes,
is kind
exactly.
of budget time, so we know that.
What was Michael's last name?
Horton, Horton.
Okay, are there any other items at this point in time?
No.
I have a question for Matt.
Yes.
At our last meeting, the last agenda on the back had a list of enforcements, and I don't see them tonight. Have they all been resolved, or?
Oh, right. No, I wish.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yes, so I've been putting those on the design review agenda and
So they'll be on
keeping,
the design review.
yeah.
That's okay.
Is that the demolition stuff that we asked about?
No, violations,
Oh, violation.
yeah.
So where are we with the demolition committee with updating that? And
Sure.
you had said that perhaps there were some houses that maybe have been removed that shouldn't have or something. Where are we with updating the demolition list?
So since this meeting last month, and I think I may have mentioned it during the design review meeting as well, the Demolition by Neglect work group has been, first of all, they've decided to go to 2 meetings a month.
Okay.
And so the first meeting since this last meeting, they first of all went over the entire demolition by neglect process, basically line by line.
Okay.
Using that flow chart that I think you probably all are familiar with. And also, however, the policy and rules of procedure for demolition by neglect, from which that flow chart came. So I actually had to revise the flow chart because it didn't exactly reflect the rules of procedure. So in the process, we discovered that there's basically 3 major steps after a project has been identified. The first one is going through a process that puts it on a preliminary demolition by neglect list. Or I think that's the right word, preliminary, essentially. The second one, and that's all prior to the chief building inspector's involvement. And then once the chief building inspector gets involved,
and then they end up agreeing and having a hearing with the property owner, et cetera, et cetera. It can then be added officially to the demolition, what's called the public demolition by neglect list. So that's the second step. And then the third step, which after a bunch of timelines and hopefully corrections by the corrections by the owner, results in a property that's been fixed. Then it's actually an action by the chief building inspector that can remove a property from the list.
From the list, okay.
So earlier this year, we were talking about some projects that should be added to the list and some that should be taken off. So at this point, we are using a spreadsheet, a very, very large spreadsheet, larger than a sheet of paper, it's poster size, that is keeping track of the, I'm going to say 39 different steps for each of the projects. However, what we have to do is go through the paperwork on each of the projects and see where each of them has fulfilled each of those steps. So we're, work group is has taken one or more folders from our office. We sat in a room together and we went through and tried to identify what parts were completed, what parts of the process were completed for those. I think we ended up with 7 different projects at the time. So we still have about 20 more to go. So it may take 2 or 3 more meetings till we get through some of these.
Okay,
Till we get through all of them, sorry.
okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other questions
Well,
or?
Maybe, does anyone from the work group want to chime in on that?
Well, hopefully.
Joe?
Where we'll
Joe,
get
can you
to-
talk in the microphone?
Hopefully where we'll get to, and we started that process by reviewing each one of the properties, which I think was a very important first step. When that's done, the issues that I hope we'll take a look at is, okay, this is my view, and I had passed that out, I think, at the design review. The process on the spreadsheet that exists takes 9 months to get through, on the assumption that a property owner does not comply with fixing their property. And that seems to be something that applies to people who are absentee landlords, as opposed to people who live in the properties. Recognizing that it's taken quite some time for a property to be considered at risk before it's even recommended to be on the list of demolition by neglect, for our process to then take 9 more months before anything substantive is done is too long.
Huh?
So we need to, once we review where we are with the properties, to see if there's a way to compress that schedule so that we get things done a little bit more efficiently. At least that hopefully is one of the things that we can achieve, because I think that would be really important.
And
Yeah.
Some of the properties we're looking at right now have been on the list for 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Joe looked at, or wrote up some of his suggestions. I handed them out at the last design review meeting. Joe couldn't make it to the meeting
Right.
due to a last-minute issue.
Yeah.
So it is actually on your desk as part of the packet behind the camp
Yeah.
handout. So go ahead and take a look at that at your leisure.
Okay.
And Joe, if you want to talk at all about that, I think it's
Not
on your...
tonight, I think we
Yeah.
need to get through the properties first. Once we get there, then
Yeah.
we
Then we
can
can go.
discuss
Okay.
those changes.
So that'll be a couple months down the road till we can
All
get
right.
to that.
So we have a plan. So we got a plan with
Yep.
the trees, and we got a plan with this demolition by neglect, so we don't have 30 years to go.
That's
Right.
right, that's right.
And Ruth, I'd like to commend Matt to the group, because things that should have been done years ago were just dropped as Joe mentioned, he's digging up stuff that was just left.
Mhm.
And maybe if we get a handle on it, we can maybe get it updated
Faster.
and actually make it a process instead of a stall.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, because some of those faults are very, very intense.
Yeah.
And there are indeed several properties that have been fixed up and deserve to be removed, officially removed from the list.
Oh, good.
So, you know, we've, the 311 Bern Street project, right? That's on, supposedly officially on the demolition by neglect list.
Okay.
It definitely should not be on there anymore because of the recent renovations that have been done. That would be a new, you know, a new development. I think the one on Queen and North Craven Street next to the Salvation Army.
Yeah, that house on the corner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's
I
been
think
fixed up.
he has an application, has had an application in to do something, fill in the foundation between the
Mhm.
piers, and I think that's probably the last item on,
I believe
on
that's
the
been done when I
checklist.
was up there the other day. I believe that's,
He's gotten 3 sides.
oh, is it,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, yeah, because I
About
saw
a month
that.
ago.
So
Okay.
that would be another brand-new
Yeah.
potential removal. So,
Good.
again, it just takes, at some point, the CBI, the chief building inspector, to go out, do his inspection, and determine that it's not,
It can be taken off.
that it can be taken off, yep.
Okay. All
So,
right.
so not to belabor this discussion, but the chief building inspector used to come report to us
Yeah, so
On the
there are parts
status-
in the process
on
when
the
they do that.
status of demolition by neglect properties.
Yes.
And I think it's true that he is the enforcement mechanism, because you don't have an enforcement mechanism other than yourself.
Right.
And so I think it was intentional to make the building inspector the bad guy, if you will. But I think we still control what goes on the list and comes off the list. It's just the building inspector needs to report to us that he's satisfied
That's right.
that the items that he'll have for minimum housing code, and he should also have items that are produced by our work group
Mhm.
for what our historic preservation requirements are. And once he's satisfied that both sets of items have been taken care of, he'll report to us. And at least in the past, then upon accepting that evidence, we could the board would vote to take it off the list. But, obviously that process can be modified for timeline and expediency to some degree. I think the only important thing is a good bit of time might be lost at the front end of the process. And I don't know how the work group has evaluated how the time gets lost overall, but the thinking at the time when those procedures were developed was to let's take the soft approach first and have staff, approach a property owner who we've identified problematic and at least say, hey, think you can fix your porch or take care of these few items, and they always say yes, or eventually they say yes within a matter of weeks. And where a lot of the time comes may be because you say, we as the board and staff says, well, I'll give you 60 days to do the repairs, and they never get done. And but I think it's important we give consideration to at least trying the soft approach first before sending certified mail and building inspectors and things of that nature, just
Right.
because of the public relations of the whole situation.
That's right.
Any other items? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? We are adjourned.